How to make new decisions with a nervous system trained for the old. Deciding when the past pulls. How to make important decisions when the inheritance is active. There's a decision you know you need to make. You might not say it out loud, but you know it's there. Some days you can ignore it. Other days it takes up all the space. It's not that you don't know what you want. On some level, you do. The problem is that what you want and what your inheritance demands are different things, and the distance between the two creates a paralysis that no practical advice can undo. It means leaving something behind. And what you leave behind is not just an option. It's a version of yourself that was built for a world that may no longer exist. This episode is about how to decide when the past pulls. Not how to eliminate the pull. That work takes more time. But how to decide in its presence, without waiting for it to disappear before acting. You need to reveal it. But keeping it in mind while you listen to this episode completely changes what remains. There is a documented pattern in decision psychology. The more important the decision, the more the emotional system, and therefore the inherited system, interferes with the process. Small, routine decisions are mostly made by System 1, the automatic, fast, emotional system. Big decisions activate System 2, the deliberate, slow, rational system. But activating System 2 does not deactivate System 1. Both operate simultaneously. And System 1 has much more accumulated history. In decisions that matter, career, relationships, identity, money, family, the pull of the past is stronger, not weaker. Because these are exactly the areas where the inheritance has been installed most deeply. This explains a paradox many people experience. Being able to make quick and accurate decisions in professional or in personal contexts, and being completely paralyzed in personal decisions that involve areas where the inheritance is denser. It's not character incoherence. It's system architecture. The more it matters, the more the past interferes. Not to sabotage you, to protect you in the only way it knows. Decision paralysis is not all the same. There are 3 main types, and each one requires a different response. Type 1, paralysis by loyalty. The decision you want to make goes against what your family, your group, or your origin system expects or values. There's no conscious value conflict. There's a weight you can't name that prevents you from moving forward. It's invisible loyalty at work. The feeling that choosing what you want is betraying those you love or where you came from. The response to this type: name the loyalty explicitly. Ask, who am I being loyal to by not deciding? What do I lose if I decide? Does this person or system genuinely want me to remain paralyzed? Or would they be able to want me to move forward if I explained what's at stake? Type 2, paralysis by identity. The decision involves becoming a version of yourself that didn't exist before, and that's threatening even when it's desired. You don't know how to be that person. You have no model for it. The new identity is abstract. The current identity, even if limiting, is known. The response to this type: find models. Not to copy, to prove that it's possible to be who you want to be. And start small. What small decision can you make today that is consistent with the identity you want to build before making the big one? Type 3, paralysis by real cost. The decision has real costs: relational, financial, time, comfort, and you're avoiding fully admitting them because admitting them would make the paralysis unjustifiable. If you truly admitted the costs and still wanted to move forward, you would have to move forward. So you maintain ambiguity. The response to this type: make an honest inventory of the costs. Write them down, all of them, and then ask, with these costs in mind, do I still want to proceed? The honest answer tells you more than months of ambiguity. The other half is having the courage to answer the question each type poses. This is not a process to eliminate the pull of the past. It's a process to decide in its presence, with more clarity and less paralysis. 1. Separate the decision from identity. The decision you face does not define who you are. It defines what you will do next. These are different things. When the decision and identity collapse, when deciding X becomes being the kind of person who decides X, the weight increases exponentially. Separating them reduces the perceived cost and allows for clearer thinking. 2. Identify the worst real scenario, not the worst imaginary scenario, which tends to be catastrophic and unlikely. The worst real scenario with honest probability. Write it down, and then ask, can I handle this if it happens? Often the answer is yes, and that dissolves much of the power the scenario had while remaining vague. 3. Decide with a deadline. Set a date by which the decision will be made, and stick to it. Not because the date resolves the ambiguity, but because ambiguity without a deadline is comfortable. It allows you to continue not deciding without admitting that's what you're doing. A date makes the non-decision visible. 4. Accept that you decide with incomplete information. You won't have all the information. You won't have absolute certainty. You won't know exactly what happens on the other side of the decision. Waiting for absolute certainty is another way of not deciding. The question is not, do I have enough certainty? It's, do I have enough clarity about what I want to move forward with the information I have? You had in mind at the beginning. What type of paralysis is it? What's the worst real scenario? Do you have a deadline? There's a cost that is rarely accounted for, the cost of not deciding. Not deciding seems neutral, a waiting position, not an active position. But it's not neutral. Not deciding is a decision to maintain the current state with all its costs, instead of assuming the costs of change. The cost of not deciding includes the energy spent maintaining ambiguity, the time that passes while waiting for certainty, the opportunities that close while delaying, and the emotional cost of knowing what you want and not acting. Barry Schwartz, in his work on the paradox of choice, documented that more options do not produce more satisfaction. They produce more paralysis and more regret. The same principle applies to prolonged indecision. Maintaining ambiguity does not preserve options. It closes them, gradually, without ceremony. There is also research on what people regret most at the end of life. It's not the decisions they made that went wrong. It's the decisions they didn't make, the missed opportunities, the paths not taken, the versions of themselves that never existed because they never dared to decide. The regret of having tried and failed is temporary. The regret of never having tried is permanent. The past will continue to pull. It doesn't disappear after one episode, after one book, after a year of work. It's part of who you are, with all that it implies. But there's a difference between a pull that governs and a pull that informs. When you name it, when you know exactly what's operating and where it comes from, it loses some of its paralyzing power. Not all, some. And some is enough to decide. With the inheritance active, with the costs in sight, with real uncertainty, and still choosing a direction that is more yours than inherited. You don't need to have the past resolved to decide the future. You need to have enough clarity for the decision to be more yours than his. That is visible choice. How to decide when the past pulls, and why waiting for it to stop pulling is the most costly decision you can make. The last episode of this season is the most important and the one most people avoid thinking about honestly. What are you conveying? Not what you want to convey. What is coming out of you right now, today, in the decisions you make and the ones you delay? Visible choice. Season 1. At Posico and Viceville. The choice this episode examines is not simple to name, because it was made before you were aware that you were making a choice. It became a habit. It became an identity. It became the way things are. And the first step to choosing differently is to see what was being chosen and why. Visible choice was built to make visible what is always present but rarely examined. That most of what we call choices are better presented reflections. What was taught, what was inherited, what was modeled by specific environments. All of this operates in decisions that seem most personal and most free. There's a difference between deciding and choosing. Deciding is what we do when we process information and reach a conclusion. Choosing is what we do when we have real awareness of the alternatives, including the alternative of not doing what we've always done. This series works exactly on that difference. What has been learned about how to make choices can be examined. What can be examined can be questioned. And what can be questioned can, with time and honest work, be replaced by something that is genuinely yours, and not just the echo of what was taught before you had a voice about what to learn. To take away from this conversation, not a 10-step method, but a question that continues to work after this episode ends. Is this choice, the one this episode named, mine? Or is it what I learn I should choose? The difference between the two is not in the outcome. It's in the awareness with which the outcome was reached. The choice this episode examines is not simple to name, because it was made before you were aware that you were making a choice. It became a habit. It became an identity. It became the way things are. And the first step to choosing differently is to see what was being chosen and why.